A salute to the man they called the Grinder. Jamestown Speedway held its first Don Gumke Racers Memorial on Saturday night to pay tribute to a man who spent decades of his life chasing the checkered flag. Midco SN's Jody Norstedt shows us how his hometown track and former competitors paid tribute to a man whose impact on the racing community was immeasurable.
Knowing him, he'd say this is out of proportion.
Don Gumke raced for the adrenaline rush, not for the notoriety. That's why his companion of 38 years, Joanne Dieterle, could only smirk when earlier this week issues started to pop up for Jason Grimes as he practiced in Don's two-star machine that he'd be racing in the first Don Gumke Memorial.
They were loading our car to bring it out here to practice with it the other night so Jason could get a feel for it. And it wouldn't start, and they looked and there was a rod hanging out of the oil pan. But it had run fine for him the day before. So Dale thinks that was Don telling us he doesn't like any of this.
But the racing community wanted to make sure the man nicknamed the Grinder received his due. The 66-year-old car junkie passed away tragically over the winter while working on his race car in Arizona. His tire marks are left all over his hometown speedway in Jamestown, from his 40 years as a driver to his years of co-ownership in the late 90s and early 2000s.
He was such a bridge between the racers and you know, the racetrack, because he had raced and he had such a relationship.
Every nickel he had went into the race car of some way. You know, he spent $10 on a roll of duct tape to fix his shoes to last the summer, and then used the duct tape on the car also. So every nickel he ever had, he stuck it into the car.
And it's that kind of dedication to the sport that led to Friday night being a marquee event.
The night had several tributes to Don, including the payouts, all being in the twos. For example, the IMCA modified feature winner collecting a payday of $2,222, a sweet taste of victory. But Don's buddies wanted that sweet taste to be felt for drivers win or lose. So they pooled together some money and bought complimentary bottles of Don's favorite wine for all the participants. The finest, Boone's Farm.
Don loved Boone's Farm, and back in the day when his drinking days, Don's words on the Boone's Farm, it's cheap and it's got a screw-on cap. So after the races are all over with and come over here, we're going to have some Boone's Farm shots.
Camaraderie. Now that's something Don would appreciate about this night. As for the ones who miss him most,
It's just great to see all the fans here, all the drivers that came from long distances. It makes me really happy to see it.
You never realize how much of an impact a guy like that has until he's gone.
Thanks, Jody. The top two features at Saturday's Don Gumke Memorial paid four figures to win, including $12.22 for the Wissota Street Stocks. This proved to be a two-horse race between front row starters Jake Fremke in the 63 and the 51 of Eric Riley. Off the start, it's Riley edging out Fremke to lead lap one. Now, he'd never be out front by more than a couple of car lengths, but that was all Riley would need. One night after finishing ninth at Mandan, the Morris, Minnesota native cashes in at Jamestown. To the mod feature now. Jason Grimes, as you saw earlier, driving the two-star of the late Don Gumke. He would start on the outside of row one next to the 10 car of Austin Arneson. Grimes hung tough off the drop of the green flag, but Arneson is one of the top mod guys around for a reason. He starts to flex his muscles, building a solid lead over the next 10 laps. Grimes takes his shot following a restart with 12 to go, tries to duck underneath Arneson in turn 3, but the 10 slams the door. Grimes kept the pressure on, but Arneson never faltered. Afterward, the Fargo native reflected on what it meant to not only win the Don Gumke Memorial, but to hold off the all-too-familiar two-star to do it.
We sold the car that got second to us, Don's car, to him last year, and we helped him out a lot. You know, we've grown a relationship with him. You know, I'm younger than him, but my dad raced with him, and we're always hanging out, parking next to each other. So it was pretty fun to have him here with us, looking down at us and stuff like that.
Now, Friday was also a night of remembrance at Rapid Speedway. We'll recap the annual Mark Lloyd Memorial when we come back.